Located in the southwest of the ancient land of Canaan, Gaza has been a strategic and contested point throughout the history of the Middle East. Its origins date back to times so ancient they are lost in the sands of prehistoric Mesopotamia. From the Egyptian campaigns of Thutmose III to the clashes involving the Philistines during Samson's time, Gaza has always been at the heart of the rivalries that have shaped the region. It witnessed Babylonian conquests, Persian rule, Maccabean revolts, and finally Roman control, each chapter bringing new conflicts and leaving indelible marks on the city. But in the Bible, Gaza is not merely mentioned as a geographic or political point of interest. It appears as the backdrop for decisive events, with prophets foretelling its fall and desolation in prophetic tones that echo through the centuries. What lies behind these words? What makes the history of this city so marked by conflict and destruction? And above all, how do these narratives resonate with the events we still witness today? Get ready to embark on a journey through the corridors of time, where we'll explore how Gaza played a pivotal role in crucial moments of biblical and world history. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like so you don't miss any fascinating content like this. Which modern event involving Gaza caught your attention the most in the Bible? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's uncover this historical mystery together. Few cities in the ancient world carry a historical weight as unique as Gaza. Strategically located in the southwest of Canaan, this city was a natural meeting point for the great powers of antiquity. Its lands, swept by Mediterranean winds, marked the intersection of trade and military routes connecting Egypt, Canaan, and distant Mesopotamia. Gaza was not merely a place of passage, it was the beating heart of a world in constant transformation. Controlling this region meant absolute power over the movement of wealth and armies, a prize no one was willing to overlook. In the Bible, Gaza is mentioned early on, in Genesis 10:19, within the context of the Canaanite boundaries. This reference is no accident but profoundly symbolic. From the very beginning, the city played an essential role in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the region. The Canaanites, masters of adaptation and cultural integration, made Gaza a vital hub within their territory. Here, religious, economic, and social traditions converged, shaping not only the city itself, but also the destinies of the nations surrounding it. Its proximity to the Mediterranean gave Gaza a role that few other places could rival. It was both a maritime and terrestrial trading post, a true link between Egypt and the Fertile Crescent. To the Egyptians, it was a natural extension of their domain, a bridge to the vast territories of the north and east. Gaza's markets buzzed with trade in goods like olive oil, wheat, and pottery, while the echoes of the many languages spoken there highlighted its cosmopolitan nature. It was a microcosm of everything that made the ancient world thrive, a testament to the power a privileged geographic location could bestow. But Gaza was more than a prosperous city. It was a witness to human ambitions and divine interventions. For the Israelites, its role went beyond the merely historical. Gaza became a thorn in their side, a constant reminder of the challenges that came with divine promises. The Bible often portrays these strategic cities as pieces on a larger chessboard, where the fulfillment of God's plans often clashed with human aspirations. And Gaza, with its multifaceted brilliance, was no exception to this fate. The Egyptians, who controlled Gaza for centuries, left deep marks on its political and cultural organization. This Egyptian influence could be seen in the temples and administrative structures that shaped the city. However, its coexistence with other cultures, such as the Phoenicians and the Canaanites themselves, made Gaza a boiling pot of ideas and beliefs. The worship of Baal, for instance, thrived alongside practices imported from Egypt, creating a spiritual mosaic that reflected the power dynamics of the time. This cultural and material wealth, however, made Gaza a target. It didn't take long for its strategic position to attract the attention of other peoples, particularly the Philistines. With the arrival of these new players, the city underwent a dramatic transformation. Gaza, once a hub of trade and diplomacy, became synonymous with war and conflict. The transition was not just political, but also cultural. The Philistines brought their own practices, beliefs, and ambitions, shaping the city in ways that would echo for centuries. The Philistines were not mere invaders. They were natural strategists, ruthless warriors, and architects of a new era for Gaza. Under their rule, the city became a military stronghold, one of the 5 principal city-states that formed the backbone of their territory. But this new chapter in Gaza's history also introduced a new kind of tension, one that would culminate in frequent clashes with Israel. Geographic proximity and cultural differences made confrontation inevitable. The arrival of the Philistines marked a turning point in Gaza's history. These enigmatic sea peoples, whose origins trace back to the islands of the Aegean Sea, completely transformed the city's character. Gaza, which had previously been a major trade center, became one of the 5 Philistine city-states known as the Pentapolis. This transformation was more than a political shift. It was a complete restructuring of Gaza's role in the region. Under Philistine rule, the city gained military and cultural significance, becoming one of the most powerful centers in the ancient Near East. The Bible, always attentive to great historical movements, describes Gaza as a focal point of conflict between the Philistines and Israel. One of the most iconic episodes is that of Samson, the Hebrew judge whose life is deeply intertwined with the city. In Judges 16, Gaza serves as the backdrop for his imprisonment, humiliation, and eventual revenge. Taken to the temple of Dagon, the Philistines' chief deity, Samson brings down the pillars supporting the structure, destroying the building and killing thousands. This act was not just a demonstration of strength, it was a powerful symbol of divine resistance against oppression. The image of the collapsing pillars continues to resonate as a metaphor for the fragility of human power in the face of divine intervention. Culturally, the Philistines brought profound changes to Gaza. Worshippers of Dagon, they built imposing temples that became the heart of their religious practices. These sites were not merely places of worship, they were symbols of Philistine dominance and a rejection of Israel's monotheistic faith. The worship of Dagon extended beyond religious rituals, influencing politics, warfare, and even public celebrations. Gaza, with its rituals and festivities, became a constant affront to Israelite values. It was as if the city itself was a provocation, challenging Israel to reaffirm its identity and faithfulness to God. Gaza's strategic location continued to play a crucial role. As one of the most important coastal cities, it connected land and sea routes, serving as a passage point for traders and armies alike. The Philistines were adept at exploiting this advantage to the fullest. Gaza became a base of operations for military raids against Israel and a vital supply hub for their forces. This strategic position also allowed the Philistines to forge alliances with other peoples, bolstering their resistance against Israel. Every battle for the city was not only a struggle for territorial control, but also a fight for economic and logistical dominance. The conflicts between Israel and the Philistines, heightened by Gaza's presence, were marked by a blend of physical and symbolic warfare. Israel viewed the city as an obstacle to the fulfillment of divine promises, while the Philistines used it as a bastion of resistance against Israel's advances. In every confrontation, the struggle over Gaza represented something greater, a contest over who truly had the right to inhabit and govern the Promised Land. These battles were not merely about territory. They embodied issues of faith, identity, and the fight for a destiny that both sides believed was rightfully theirs. Yet Gaza was not merely a fortress, it was also a place of everyday life, where civilians grappled with the consequences of national conflicts. For ordinary inhabitants, the city was both a refuge and a prison. Under Philistine rule, they lived in a militarized culture where frequent conflicts shaped daily life. The walls that protected Gaza also isolated it, turning it into a symbol of resilience and fragility at the same time. When we delve into the realm of biblical prophecy, Gaza assumes an even more emblematic role. It is not merely a strategically significant city, it becomes a living example of the consequences of disobedience and injustice. Amos, Jeremiah, and Zephaniah, among other prophets, focused their attention on Gaza in their discourses, not as a simple geographical point but as a symbol of divine judgment. The city, with its turbulent past and constant conflicts, is elevated to a stage where God's justice is proclaimed powerfully and often terrifyingly. Amos, a humble shepherd turned eloquent prophet, is among the first to explicitly condemn Gaza. In Amos 1:6-7, he denounces the city for capturing entire communities of Israelites and selling them as slaves to Edom. This practice, besides being cruel, violated the fundamental values of God's covenant with his people. Amos, with his direct and impactful language, foretells that God would send fire to consume Gaza's walls and fortresses. This prophecy is not just a warning. It is a vivid portrayal of how the abuse of human power attracts divine judgment. One cannot help but imagine Gaza's bustling streets being reduced to a desert of ashes under God's wrath. Jeremiah, in his monumental work of Prophecies, also includes Gaza in his oracles of judgment. In chapter 47, he describes an impending destruction coming from the north, likely referring to the Babylonian invasion led by Nebuchadnezzar II. The image of waters rising from the north, Jeremiah 47:2, is both poetic and terrifying. The metaphor of an overwhelming flood suggests an unstoppable force that would sweep away everything in its path, leaving Gaza in ruins. This depiction not only points to a historical event, but also carries profound spiritual significance, a reminder that no earthly power can withstand God's sovereign plan. Zephaniah, in his book, presents an even darker vision for Gaza. He predicts that the city would become an abandoned place, a total desert where waves would crash against forgotten ruins. In Zephaniah 2:4-7, however, there is a glimpse of hope at the end, the promise that the coast of the Philistines, including Gaza, would be inherited by the remnant of Israel. This idea of redemption amidst judgment offers a dimension of hope amid destruction. Gaza, which had been a symbol of oppression and rebellion, would be restored as part of the divine plan, albeit under new conditions and purposes. The prophet's words about Gaza go beyond its physical destruction. They speak of universal principles. Injustice, oppression, and betrayal do not escape God's notice. Gaza, deeply involved in the slave trade and practices that defied divine values, became an example of how the abuse of power draws judgment. These messages, though directed at a specific city, echo across generations, teaching that any nation or city that strays from divine justice will find its own Gaza, a destruction that purifies and reorients. With the collapse of Philistine rule, Gaza entered a new phase in its history, now under the influence of the great empires that shaped the Middle East. The city, which had already witnessed the rise and fall of local powers, became a strategic target in the imperial expansions that defined the region's geopolitics. First, the Assyrians, led by Tiglath-Pileser III, conquered Gaza, incorporating it into their vast empire. For the Assyrians, known for their military and administrative organization, Gaza was a vital tributary city connecting Mesopotamia to Egypt. The streets of Gaza, bustling with caravans, now became a source of wealth for the empire. Assyrian rule brought significant changes to Gaza. Under their oversight, the city was integrated into an efficient trade network that included both land and sea routes. This meant that even as a tributary city, Gaza thrived economically, though under the burden of subjugation. However, this prosperity came at a price. Heavy taxation and cultural interference from the Assyrians created tensions with the local inhabitants, who found themselves forced to adapt their traditions to the new reality. Assyrian influences were visible in architecture, urban organization, and even some religious practices, which began to blend Canaanite and Assyrian elements. Assyrian control, however, was not eternal. With Assyria's decline, the Babylonians, under the energetic leadership of Nebuchadnezzar II, advanced upon Gaza. The city, already accustomed to the weight of many conquerors, was devastated during Babylonian campaigns in 601 BCE. Nebuchadnezzar not only destroyed Gaza as part of his strategy to weaken regional resistance, but also used the city as an example of his power. The impact of this destruction was profound. Gaza, once a vibrant center, became a shadow of its former self, its walls torn down and its population scattered. The Babylonian period, though marked by destruction, also brought significant reflections for Israel's prophets. Gaza became a living reminder of the fragility of human powers in the face of God's sovereign plan. The city's ruins echoed the prophecies that had already been pronounced against it, reinforcing the message that no empire, no matter how great, was beyond divine judgment. For Israel, also suffering under Babylonian rule, Gaza served as a mirror of their own struggles, an illustration of how God used even powerful nations to fulfill his purposes. When the Persian Empire replaced the Babylonians, Gaza entered a phase of reconstruction. Under Cyrus the Great and his successors, the city regained some of its strategic and commercial importance. The Persians, renowned for their tolerant administration and promotion of trade, invested in Gaza's revitalization. The city's port began to thrive again, and its land routes were once more filled with goods from across the empire. It was as if Gaza was experiencing a rebirth, even under foreign control. This recovery brought new energy to the city, now deeply integrated into the Persian economy and political system. Despite its renewal, Gaza remained a city in constant transition, perpetually subject to shifts in power and the ambitions of the empires that ruled it. Persian prosperity brought relative peace, but also left Gaza reliant on decisions made at the imperial center. The city became a reflection of Persian policies and values, incorporating elements of their culture, while surprisingly retaining traces of its historical identity. Gaza was a survivor, adapting to the winds of change without completely losing its essence. This period under the great empires is crucial to understanding how Gaza evolved from a regional center to a key piece on the global chessboard. Every empire that dominated it left lasting marks, not only on the city itself but also on how it was perceived by the peoples around it. With the arrival of Alexander the Great in the late 4th century BCE, Gaza witnessed yet another monumental shift in its history. The city, which had withstood the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians, now faced the expansion of Hellenism. In his relentless march across the Middle East, Alexander encountered fierce resistance in Gaza, but the outcome was inevitable. After a prolonged siege, the city fell, and Alexander himself ordered its reconstruction. The new Gaza emerged as a Hellenistic city, with Greek cultural influences shaping its architecture, language, and customs. It was a fresh start, but also the beginning of a period of profound transformation. The Hellenistic period brought changes that redefined Gaza in nearly every aspect. The city began to reflect the model of Greek polis, with public squares, theaters, and gymnasiums. These institutions were not just physical structures, they represented a new way of life centered on Hellenistic culture. Gaza became a point of connection between the Greek world and the cultures of the Near East, a kind of cultural bridge. However, while these changes were evident, the city did not entirely lose its roots. Elements of local traditions could still be found, creating a unique blend of influences that defined Gaza during this era. During this period, Gaza flourished as a significant commercial hub. Situated along a vital route between Egypt and Asia, the city thrived on the trade of spices, textiles, and agricultural products. Greek influence facilitated cultural and economic exchanges, transforming Gaza into a meeting point for merchants from various parts of the world. Imagine the bustling markets, filled with voices speaking different languages, as exotic goods exchanged hands. This vibrant scene reflected how Hellenistic rule had expanded Gaza's horizons, connecting it to a broader world. However, this new era also brought challenges. Gaza often found itself caught in the disputes between the dynasties that succeeded Alexander. The Ptolemies and the Seleucids vied for control of the city, each seeking to impose its authority over this strategic territory. These struggles, while taxing, also showcased Gaza's resilience. The city, despite being a battleground, continued to prosper, adapting to shifts in power with remarkable agility. Its location and commercial importance ensured that Gaza remained relevant, even in times of instability. The transition to Roman rule in 63 BCE marked another significant transformation. Under Pompey, Gaza regained some autonomy and was incorporated into the vast Roman Empire. The Romans, known for their skill in managing diverse territories, integrated Gaza into their network of roads and trade routes, further solidifying its position as a strategic hub. Under Roman rule, the city entered a new era of stability and growth. Hellenistic influences persisted, but were now complemented by Roman pragmatism and organization. It was during this period that the seeds of Christianity began to take root in Gaza. Though the city remained predominantly pagan, with temples dedicated to Greek and Roman gods, the first Christian communities began to emerge in the late 1st century. These communities, often small and persecuted, brought a new worldview that challenged established religious and social practices. The early Christian presence was subtle, but marked the beginning of a spiritual transformation that would eventually reshape the city's identity. Culturally, Roman-era Gaza was a mosaic. Greek influence remained strong, with athletic and artistic events celebrating Hellenic ideals, while Roman rule introduced administrative efficiency that boosted the local economy. Roads connecting Gaza to the rest of the empire facilitated trade and cultural exchange, while Roman laws ensured an order that allowed the city to thrive. Gaza was a city at the crossroads of worlds, where the East and West met in tangible ways. Gaza's history progressed with the same intensity as in previous eras when Islam arrived in the region in the 7th century. Under Caliph Omar's leadership, Gaza was conquered and became one of the first cities in Palestine to embrace Islam. This moment marked a new chapter for the city, now part of the emerging Islamic Caliphate. Gaza transitioned from a Roman Hellenistic commercial center to a bastion of Islam, with mosques being built, markets renewed, and a new religious identity shaping its trajectory. This swift transition reflected the city's historical adaptability, seamlessly integrating into yet another transformative era. During the early Islamic period, Gaza thrived as a cultural and economic hub. The city became renowned for its Islamic schools, scholars, and agricultural production, particularly in the export of dates and olive oil. It was a time of relative stability, during which Gaza played a crucial role in the Caliphate's trade network, linking Egypt, Arabia, and the broader Middle East. Caravans passing through its gates carried not only goods, but also ideas, fostering a cultural exchange that gave the city a distinctly cosmopolitan character. This stability, however, was disrupted by the Crusades in the late 11th century. Due to its strategic location, Gaza became a frequent target of military campaigns between Christians and Muslims. The Crusaders, led by figures like Baldwin I, recognized the city's importance as a key point for controlling trade and military routes. During the Crusades, Gaza changed hands multiple times, alternating between Christian and Muslim control. Each occupation left its mark on the city, from renewed fortifications to shifts in local administration. Despite these challenges, Gaza demonstrated remarkable resilience. Even amid conflict, the city managed to maintain its significance. Trade, though interrupted during times of war, always returned with vigor. Gaza's inhabitants learned to navigate the shifting political and military landscapes, adapting to new realities while retaining their sense of identity. This ability to recover was a testament to the tenacity of its people and the enduring strategic importance of the city. In the 13th century, with the decline of the Crusades and the rise of the Mamluks, Gaza entered a period of renewal. The Mamluks, who ruled the region with an iron grip, rebuilt the city and integrated it into an efficient administrative system. Recognizing Gaza's role as a vital link between Egypt and Syria, they restored its infrastructure and encouraged trade. During this period, Gaza once again became a prominent regional center, though it remained vulnerable to the political upheavals of the Middle East. The arrival of the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century marked another transformation for Gaza. Under Ottoman rule, the city experienced a period of relative modernization. Gaza became an important agricultural center, with wheat and barley fields supplying local markets and exports. The Ottomans constructed new mosques, markets, and public buildings, reflecting the city's status as a regional hub. However, as in previous eras, Gaza also faced the challenges of wars and political shifts characteristic of the sprawling Ottoman Empire. The medieval conflicts left an enduring impact on Gaza's identity. The city became a symbol of survival, a testament to how cultures, religions, and empires could collide and coexist within a single space. Its ability to adapt and flourish, even amid adversity, underscored its continuous significance. Gaza was not merely a place, it was a microcosm of the historical and spiritual dynamics that define the Middle East. Gaza entered modern times bearing the weight of centuries of conquests, destruction, and rebuilding. Its geographic position, long both a blessing and a curse, became even more crucial in the 20th century, especially as the conflict between Arabs and Jews intensified. Following the fall of the Ottoman Empire and during the British Mandate in Palestine, Gaza became a focal point of the escalating tensions that would culminate in the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. At this juncture, Gaza transformed from a historic city into a contested territory, symbolizing the region's profound divisions. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War was a pivotal moment in Gaza's modern history. After the war, the city and its coastal strip fell under Egyptian control, becoming an isolated enclave between Israel and the Sinai. During this period, Gaza became home to thousands of Palestinian refugees displaced from their lands. These refugees turned Gaza from a relatively quiet coastal city into a center of human suffering and political tension. Refugee camps, initially intended as temporary shelters, became permanent communities, embodying the ongoing crisis in the region. The Six-Day War in 1967 brought another dramatic shift. Israel captured Gaza, placing it under military administration. This period marked the beginning of an occupation that profoundly impacted the city and its people. Under Israeli control, Gaza became a hotspot for conflict. Palestinian resistance movements, such as the PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, and later Hamas, emerged as responses to the occupation and the dire conditions faced by the local population. The Gaza Strip, small in size but vast in complexity, became a focal point of global attention. In 2005, another major turning point occurred with Israel's unilateral withdrawal from Gaza, dismantling its settlements in the area. Initially seen as an opportunity for autonomous development, the withdrawal created a power vacuum quickly filled by Hamas. The group's takeover of Gaza in 2007 marked the beginning of a new era of isolation and conflict. In response to Hamas control, Israel and Egypt imposed a blockade, worsening Gaza's economic and social conditions and making it one of the most densely populated and impoverished areas in the world. Armed conflicts between Israel and militant groups in Gaza have since become recurring, with devastating cycles of violence. Military operations, airstrikes, and rocket attacks have become tragically commonplace, leaving deep scars on the local population. For Gaza's residents, daily life is defined by uncertainty, scarcity, and constant fear. This reality echoes the words of biblical prophets who foresaw times of suffering and destruction in the region. Once a jewel of commerce and culture, Gaza has become a symbol of the complexities and tragedies of modern conflict. Despite its challenges, the resilience of Gaza's people is remarkable. The city, often associated with conflict, is also a place of creativity, culture, and hope. Artists, writers, and community leaders strive to preserve Gaza's identity and dignity, even amid adversity. Humanitarian organizations and international efforts work to alleviate suffering, but political and economic barriers make progress difficult. Gaza, with its rich and painful history, serves as a constant reminder of the human cost of prolonged conflict. Gaza's relevance in today's context extends beyond its local challenges. The city and its coastal strip are often viewed as a microcosm of the Middle East's tensions. Gaza is a point of convergence where issues of territory, identity, and power intersect, reflecting global dilemmas about justice, sovereignty, and coexistence. Its modern history, as a place of pain and resilience, calls on the world to seek lasting solutions to the conflicts that continue to shape its reality. As we explore Gaza's past and present, it becomes clear that its trajectory is more than a sequence of historical events. It is a living narrative that continues to evolve, carrying the lessons of an ancient past and the hopes for a better future. Thus, Gaza's story, from its biblical origins to modern times, stands as a testament to survival, complexity, and the unyielding pursuit of peace and justice. Gaza, with its fascinating history and struggles, shows us how every stone, every ruin, and every prophetic word carries lessons that transcend time. From its origins in the heart of Canaan to the apocalyptic visions of the prophets, its journey reflects not just the fate of a city, but the cycles of power, resistance, and hope that shape our world. Now, it is up to us to look at this history with care and draw lessons for our own journey. Have you ever stopped to think about how these stories impact our faith and shape the way we see today's conflicts? Which chapter of Gaza's saga resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments and let your reflections enrich this discussion. Let's keep learning together. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue exploring the mysteries of the Bible and the secrets of places like Gaza. Each video is an invitation to dive deeper into history, and your presence here makes all the difference. See you in the next episode, where we'll uncover new chapters in this incredible journey through the Word.